Saved from the axe, saved for the nation. After a high-profile campaign led by stars from Lily Allen to Jarvis Cocker, the BBC's digital radio station 6 Music will not be closed down. Protesters took to internet sites like Facebook and Twitter to urge the BBC to reconsider, and new listeners flocked to hear the endangered station. But the BBC still needs to make substantial savings and is launching a review of its whole radio output. Our technology correspondent Benjamin Cohen has this.
We having fun, like we do. Original criminal.
There is no need for the fun to end on 6 Music. After a 4-month campaign to save the BBC's alternative music station, the corporation's governing body has given it a stay of execution. So DJs like Huey Morgan can stay on the air. His colleague Lauren Laverne broke the news on 6 Music today.
The BBC Trust has rejected the BBC's plans to close 6 Music. In his initial response to the Director General's strategy review, the chairman of the Trust, which represents the interests of licence fee payers, says that the case for the closure of 6 has not been made. And of course, we want to say a huge thank you to all of you for all of the incredible support you've given us and for telling the Trust exactly how you feel, because they've obviously heard you.
In these austere times, the digital-only station was earmarked for closure by the BBC executive on value-for-money grounds, costing around £12 a year per listener. Protests from celebrities like Lily Allen combined with an enormous campaign on social media platforms, Twitter and Facebook. And this meant that many who'd never heard of the station suddenly became its biggest fans, and its audience actually shot up by 50%.
We haven't weighed all the commentary from supporters as if this was a referendum. That's not the case. But what the very strong public response did was to reinforce what the Trust had already learned in its service review, that 6 Music is a distinctive service well liked by its audience.
But by reversing the decision, does it mean that even the smallest cuts at the BBC are unacceptable when other parts of the public sector are bracing themselves for cuts of up to 40%? The total expenditure of the BBC was £3.5 billion last year. Against that, the budget of 6 Music was a mere drop in the ocean at £9.3 million and represents less than 0.3% of the total spending. The Asian network still faces closure, but that would only save £12.1 million a year. Other savings approved today include £50 million taken out of the BBC's online budgets, and senior staff and on-screen stars will see their pay drop by an as-yet unspecified amount.
Cutting to the BBC is always going to be hard, and there's no particular public demand for it. The public may not be happy to see Jonathan Ross paid £18 million over 3 years, and they're certainly not happy to see senior executives paid in excess of £500,000 a year. That all smells of snouts in the trough. Right, what the public do like, however, generally speaking, are the BBC's programmes, and so cutting them is going to be hard.
If you're watching the webcam right now, hello!
The real battle will be over the future of radios 1 and 2, with much higher budgets and accused today by the BBC Trust of lacking distinctiveness, and rivals say they step on the toes of commercial operators offering near identical content.
It's particularly important the BBC focuses on the distinctiveness of its services, particularly Radio 1 and Radio 2, so they're not competing head-on with the commercial sector but are offering something different in their own right. And also it's important that they deliver value for money. Those two things are far more important than the fate of 6 Music, which is a relatively small part of the overall BBC radio portfolio.
I don't understand this song, but I do like it.
The BBC management will now conduct a new, full review of its radio output, and so the axe could end up coming down on even better known and loved stations than 6 Music.
Benjamin Cohen reporting. Well, earlier this year we spoke to BBC6 Music DJ Adam Buxton. BBC Director General Mark Thompson was in the studio at the same time. Buxton told Mr Thompson why he thought the station should stay on the air.
Mark Tomo Thompson, I'm inviting you out for a fight. I could take you. I've been practicing. No, seriously, I want to know, I suppose, a couple of things. I want to know if it's completely a fait accompli or whether the BBC will listen to people's opinions if they're offered to the BBC Trust online. That's part one of my two-part question. Part two is I don't understand why it's necessary to get rid of a station in the name of quality when it's a station that is working really well and that people really seem to love.
Well, to find out whether that was the reason behind the BBC's U-turn, Adam Buxton is with us again. So, Adam Buxton, was it fisticuffs or was it the great popular uprising out in the country?
Well, I'm glad to say it never came to actual fisticuffs, although I could tell he was frightened. And he must have been quaking in his boots. Some people have said that this decision today is a slap in the face for Mark Tomo Thompson. I don't think it is. I think it's, you know, just a gentle slap on the legs, maybe. But either way, I'm delighted. One thing that is clear is that the BBC Trust did listen to all the listeners and all the people that came out in support of Six Music, who weren't just doing it, you know, just to have something to say and to do a bit of protesting. It was genuine, heartfelt sense of sadness that the BBC was going to lose a service that people genuinely love.
There's a conspiracy theory running around on the web at the moment that this was really all a BBC stunt just to get popularity for Radio 6, and by God, it worked.
I heard that. I think, like all conspiracy theories, that's wishful thinking. The notion that the geniuses at the BBC would concoct that kind of solid gold PR plan is just daydreaming, surely.
Do you think, I mean, in the end, one of the reasons why Radio 6 has survived is because of its originality, the fact it plays new music and the rest. Do you think that the BBC ought to be more about Radio 6 than Radio 1, which is, you know, anybody can do Radio 1, can't they?
Come on, don't tell Chris Moyles that. He's a genius. My children think he's a genius. People have genuine affection for Radio 1, and the BBC does all those things, even the mainstream things, incredibly well, and they, you know, they do their best to make them the best service in that field that's available. So I certainly don't like the idea of rubbishing the bigger stations, Radio 2 and Radio 1, just because they're successful. The fact is that Six Music is a marginal station. It's all about celebrating things that are marginal and a bit weird, perhaps. It's never going to have a massive audience, but that's why it's such a great and quintessentially BBC concern. You know, well, it's not something that could ever survive in the commercial world.
But you know what's going to happen? I mean, they've said it. They're going to go around and look for cuts, and that means probably they'll look to Radio 6, they'll look to all sorts of things. BBC6 Music could well be into, the 9.3 million could come down to 8.3.
We'll do it on 8.3. I mean, obviously, no one's relishing the thought of working on tighter budgets, but it's always doable. I can think of a few cuts. You don't need webcams for a start. Sorry, online department. But, you know, if they're cutting 50 million from their online services, that's the bit that they're cutting. Imagine the whole amount that they're spending on a lot of their online stuff,
right,
which is amazing, I'm sure. But
before we go, we'd better find out who Stephen is.
Stephen, this will mean something to Black Squadron. They're the loyal listeners of the Adam and Joe Six Music programme, which will be returning later in the year. It's kind of a call and response. If you say Stephen in a public place and you hear someone say Just Coming, that means they listen to Six Music. You won't get many Just Comings, but the ones you do will be passionate, heartfelt and delighted that the station has been saved today.
Stephen, Just Coming.
Just Coming.
Adam Buxton, thank you very much.
Cheers.
Now, 7:30, over to Kristen for a roundup of tonight's main news.